Hi folks, today we are joined by Troy Gray. He's the founder and CEO of Charity TV Global, and he was a former footballer with the Sydney Swans, with the Saints, and also Norwood and West Adelaide here in the SANFL. But before we do that, just want to give a shout out to a great local business, Sublime here on Bray Street. These guys are a great bunch of people. Dan, Jay, Sheldon and the crew, get on down and say hi, get yourself some great coffee and the best service going around as well, and you won't be disappointed. I'll just have a sip of this great coffee now. Absolutely awesome.
Welcome to Legends with Bevo. Thanks to the Holdy Hotel, Coopers, and Anytime Fitness Glenelg.
Troy, great to have you on Legends with Bevo, mate. How are you going at the moment, and what have you been doing to keep yourself busy throughout this social isolation situation?
Well, this is definitely the highlight. So great speaking with you, Bevo. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you.
It's almost been business as normal to a certain degree for me and the team at Charity TV Global. So I'm mixing up working between home and the office. A lot of our staff are working remotely as well. So we're definitely still abiding by all the isolation rules and regulations, but we're able to get some work done, which is a real bonus.
And tell us all about Charity TV Global, how it all came about, and for those people that are listening today, what the story is all about it.
Well, effectively, and you can see it, it's branded everywhere. We're a TV production company, and the difference with us is that we combine entertainment with philanthropy, and we do that both in Australia and across the world. And we do this by effectively implementing, and we manage fundraising ventures. And we do this through a registered foundation, which we have called the Charity TV Global Foundation. And we say to people out there in the world, would you like to do something good with your life? Would you like to help others? Now, if you would, you register online with us, and then you help us raise money and profile for charities, and then we reward you by having you star in our TV shows. Now, our current TV show in Australia and also currently being broadcast across New Zealand is called Adventure All Stars. And effectively, our cast are just made up of everyday people that raise money for charities, and then we reward them by taking them away for an adventure of a lifetime.
Well, that sounds absolutely awesome, mate. What's been some of the favourite places you've been to so far since you started the Charity TV Global?
Oh, well, it's hard to say because we've been to so many amazing places. This effectively, Bevo, started as a side project for me nearly 15 years ago, where I've been involved in television for a long time, but I thought, wouldn't it be good to somehow bring exposure and notoriety to a charity using something like a platform being entertainment? And we also forget that the first three letters of fundraising are F-U-N, fun. And a lot of charitable endeavours and initiatives are not fun. They all mean well, but we thought, let's bring some fun, some energy, and let's combine philanthropy with entertainment. So to answer your question, we started travelling, and the first trip we went to was Mount Everest.
Oh.
And not a bad place to start. So I'd say that pretty hard to top, going to the top of the world. I didn't go right to the top of Mount Everest, which is nearly 9 kilometres in the air, but we got above base camp, got some amazing footage, and that set the precedence for us to say we're going to reward people from around the world by taking them to amazing places. So Kokoda, all around Australia, right across New Zealand, which is just beautiful. And we've also got some itineraries coming up in other countries like Southeast Asia, the subcontinent, and America.
Super exciting, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops. I mentioned at the start of the show as well, you're actually a bit of a footy star back in the day. You played AFL, you played 51 games for the Swans and then 9 for the Saints, and also played some SANFL footy as well. Talk us through the footy career and then how you went from your juniors into playing for Sydney.
Yeah, I think you used the word star a bit loosely there, but I did play some football professionally. Fantastic. I absolutely love those days, and some of my best memories, some of my best friends are still from my football days. I'm from a place in the Riverina in country New South Wales called Leeton. It's a great breeding ground for sports people. We, in fact, would play Australian football on a Saturday morning in the winter. Then Sunday would be rugby league. Then we would start playing tennis. The same group would play basketball. Cricket was huge in summer. So very much sport-oriented growing up. And I was always a South Melbourne fan, a Swans fan. And they then moved to Sydney. So that was even better for me, being a New South Wales boy, that we had a team in New South Wales. And I actually grew up always wanting to play Australian rules football professionally. And that is genuine. With my walls were always wallpapered. Every Saturday and Sunday, I would cut out pictures of AFL stars, and I would have certain walls for certain players, and didn't have any space left on any. I even started doing the roof. But yeah, I ended up going to the Swans as a 17-year-old in a draft arrangement where there was zoning back in the 90s, and they had some ability to pre-select people from the ACT in New South Wales, and I was lucky enough to be one of those.
And who was obviously you played with some very good players, but who were some of the best players that you played with, and perhaps some of your toughest opponents, Troy?
Definitely the best players. Probably three stand out straight away. Paul Kelly, a Brownlow medalist and my former captain at the Swans. Tony Lockett. I played against Tony, and then I played with Tony when he made the transition from St Kilda to Sydney. Plugger got reported several times for knocking me around, and some of my best photos and memories are either lining up on him or sharing the change rooms with him, where he was a great guy to have a laugh with. You probably think of someone like Plugger as being rugged and tough, and he was all of that, but so skillful, but also a great team man and a wonderful person to play football with. And then Robert Harvey, another Brownlow medalist that just could run all day, the ultimate professional and a pure gentleman. So they'd be the three stars that I played with. And against, I'd have to say, I mentioned Plugger. That's no secret that he used to slap me around a bit, but also watching the ball sail through the goals multiple times per game was also hard. But I just loved playing on Gary Ablett, the man they call God. So Gary Ablett Sr., of course, he was just mercurial. He was quiet as an opponent, but I feel like he was also the hardest opponent in terms of his aggression that you didn't see. And that was off the ball, in scrimmages. He didn't mind, a hand or an elbow in the face, but he always shook your hand afterwards. So I was lucky, because in that year I was playing against people like, Modra, and then Carey and Dunstall. You throw in Ablett and Longmire, and these were the genuine superstars, and I was very privileged and honoured to play on them, but definitely not in the same ballpark when it comes to skill. But I shared the ground with them, so it was brilliant.
Oh, well done on that, mate. I'm certainly very envious. And you're right, though. The 90s era was sensational. One of the few highlights of the coronavirus situation has been going back and watching some of those old games in the 90s and seeing how good we were. Just so blessed to have those sort of guys running around. And like you mentioned, to actually play on them is just even better.
Yeah, I've had a few of those 90s videos be sent through to me, or links, people having a bit of a laugh, saying, hey, look at the 1 minute mark, the 5 minute mark. And it's fantastic to see my head pop up, or really good friends of mine feature in some of these videos, and you watch it and you think, wow, the pace of the game was still great. The skills are great, but some of the hits and the collisions. I actually saw a chiropractor and a physiotherapist yesterday, so two in the same day. I'm starting to realise that perhaps those football injuries are catching up with me.
Yes, I know exactly how you feel there, mate. I've just turned 40 recently. I still want to play, but I think the body's telling me otherwise. So, And in terms of the players that you played with, obviously you mentioned before you played for Sydney and the Saints, and also for Nord as well back here in the SANFL. Who are some of the funniest teammates you played with and why, Troy?
Yes. Sorry about the phone ringing in the background. That's the hazard of working from the office. SANFL days, I came across to play with West Adelaide thinking that my best football was behind me, and surely I couldn't enjoy football as much at a level that wasn't quite what we call the ultimate elite level in the country. But I have to say that playing in South Australia was just brilliant. Um, I look at those days as saying I had some of the most fun and played with some of the best players, even including all the AFL players that I could ever wish to play with. And so I intended to come over and play in the SANFL for 1 year. And it was always my intention to move back to New South Wales. And 20 plus years later, I still reside in Adelaide and love the fact that SANFL still exists, albeit in a slightly different format. But yeah, as far as naming some of the players that I played with in the SANFL, there are so many that I admire. And I think of guys with the West Adelaide days. There was a big guy full of tattoos called Adam Richardson. There was his namesake, Eddie Richardson, that played. Greg Mellor, Dion Miles was a wonderful player. A lot of these guys had the ultimate talent. And then a good friend of mine, Robbie Neal, who starred for Norwood for many years after playing with Sydney and St Kilda, and he's still a good friend of mine. These guys were champions, and I love seeing the SANFL still breathing, and I hope it gets a bit of an injection, in particular from the fans as they look to come out of this coronavirus break wanting sport back. So hopefully they can support the local footy.
Yeah, well said. And obviously the last two grand finals have been terrific in terms of the crowd numbers. We saw a record crowd a couple of years ago with that North grand final. And then last year at Port Vanelga, I think we had 35,000 plus. So you're right, the SANFL definitely is heading in the right direction. And let's hope that this coronavirus doesn't affect it too much.
We hope so. And that goes for football all around Australia. And in fact, for sport worldwide, there is a lot of people, no doubt, because I know you get millions tuning into this podcast from all corners of the globe, Bevo. So I hope that their sports, they bounce back well and the crowds come out and everyone just gets back to normality and being able to wear their team colours and have some fun on the weekend.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, so hopefully sooner rather than later. For those people that don't know, you used to actually read the news back in the day for Channel 9 as well, Troy. You did a great job of it. And I've tried reading those teleprompters before, and they're pretty hard work. Was there any situations there where you had like an embarrassing moment reading the teleprompter or being a newsreader on Nine?
Yeah, well, I loved it. Playing football was fantastic because you had that immediate feeling of something that was happening live, and TV news reading gave me that. And it's the only real platform on television where things are happening live and you have to be ready and the adrenaline's pumping. So I must admit there was a few mishaps now and then, some through my fault, some technical difficulties. You mentioned the auto cue before. I've been out on location many times where there's stories coming in just before the cameras start rolling, and I've hardly had a chance to read them on the hard copy, let alone on the prompter. And, halfway through, the prompter either just turns off and goes black or it stalls. So having to then make your way through all of that and keep the people on the other end watching you under the impression that you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about, that can be awkward. And also I remember quite vividly some AFL grand finals where I've gone over to the MCG and I've read the news from the middle of the MCG, which is just an awesome feeling. And then post grand final, and what you can't see as the viewer is all the mayhem going on outside of camera view. And I've had some very awkward moments where people have removed clothing and they're off camera, but I'm having to press my way through and try and pretend that things are going well. And then breaking into laughter and trying to hold that composure, which is tough knowing that it is live. And look, I loved every minute of my time reading the news.
And you've had a few business ventures as well in your time after playing footy. You've had Destinations for Men and a few others. So talk to us through those.
Yeah, well, my first business venture was a personal training business called Step by Step. And I started that in my Sydney Swans days with a former professional jockey called Kevin Moses. And we had, a lot of celebrities from television and sport and the top end of town all booking our services. So it was a really privileged opportunity to do some great things for my first foray into business when I was living in the biggest city in Australia. And then I took that model down to Melbourne when I went from the Swans to St Kilda and was able to operate out of the old St Kilda change rooms at Moorabbin, and that was brilliant. But then I got into public speaking and emceeing and, of course, television presenting. So I needed to form a company that took care of a lot of those productions and events. And I formed Vox Ventures, and that continues today, where I'm doing lots of different things in the entertainment space through that company. And then, as you mentioned at the top of that question, Destination for Men, I looked at this male grooming, somewhere, a haven for guys, blokes to get together. So I thought, well, if I'm getting a haircut or a barbershop shave, wouldn't it be great to have a bar there and sports screen? So I got an alcohol license, a liquor license, and put in a bar there, and blokes could come in, drink beers, watch their favourite sports, and then go and, in a really masculine manner, seek these treatments that otherwise were probably more feminine oriented. So that ran for a good 10 to 12 years. I don't operate that anymore, but that was some good times. And now, as you mentioned when this interview started, and as you can see with all the signage, my biggest project by far, and the one that's won the most awards, is definitely Charity TV Global. So we've got some big things happening on that front.
Well, there you go. You've mentioned what I was going to ask you next. So where to from here for Charity TV Global, and what have we got to expect going forward?
Well, whenever I do interviews, I always talk about the fact that we founded this organisation for two reasons. And the biggest thing is that there's such a need for charitable organisations right around the world to look at unique ways to raise funds, and also an opportunity for them to gain long-term exposure. And it also then provided our team with a wonderful opportunity to make television projects starring everyday people from around the world. So that's the premise of what we're trying to do now, but also that's helping us going forward. So we've got some projects like an international drive at the moment, where we're going out to charities to say, it's unprecedented times. We know charities are suffering because of COVID-19. So no matter where you are around the world, register at charitytvglobal.com, and we will be there to assist you or give you some pointers of how this project that combines entertainment with philanthropy can benefit you. So that's happening as we speak. We also have a bushfire appeal project, and it's funny, we're in this current pandemic, and we've forgotten that only months ago Australia was in the midst of the worst bushfires ever, and communities all around the country are affected. So we're actually doing a national bushfire appeal project where people get to nominate their local hero, and we're then going to make those local heroes stars in our Adventure All Stars TV shows. So that's a reward for these people who need a smile on their face. We're also in the final stages of launching a project to assist healthcare workers. We know what wonderful jobs they're doing at the moment. They're putting themselves in harm's way by trying to help others. And so we want to say thank you to healthcare workers, both in Australia and abroad. That's a project that a number of our team members are doing wonderful things with. And just to finish up, we're currently screening our debut season in New Zealand on TV1. We've just finished our TV season here with Channel 7 on 7/2 nationally. And we're now casting and getting ready for filming in Australia and also in the US. So lots and lots of things happening. And I urge anyone, whether you're a community initiative, a charity, or you're just someone that wants to go on a life-changing adventure, definitely go to charitytvglobal.com and see what it's all about, and look to do something special with your life.
Well, Troy, great. I absolutely love it, mate. Keep up the great work with that. And it's been a pleasure having on Legends of Bevo today and hearing your journey, not only with your footy, but also with Charity TV Global. And speak in soon, mate.
Bevo, thanks for your time, and for everyone listening, thanks for tuning in.